Hey, Steve Mignani here with some really good junkyard news. If you're going to be anywhere near Sherman, Texas on March 24th and 25th, know that there's going to be an outdoor auction put on by duncansauctions.com of over 200 solid Texas parts vehicles. It's going to be Fords, GM, Mopar, lots of tractors, and even forklifts. These things all have to go. It's an online auction, but also an on-site auction. If you happen to be in Sherman, Texas, you can go and bid in person or again, online, but all 200 vehicles have to go. Don't let them get crushed. To learn more about this auction, which happens on March 24th and 25th of 2023, check it out on duncansauctions.com. And keep in mind, if you're seeing this after March 24th or 25th, 2003, the auction's over with. But before then, make sure you check it out and save some of these cars. Don't let them go to the crusher. Hey, Steve Mignani here doing the Junkyard Crawl at Bernardston Auto Wrecking in Bernardston, Massachusetts with a full-sized, large and in charge barge from the past. This is a 1968 Mercury Park Lane Brougham. Now you got to remember, Mercury was founded in 1938 and ran through 2010. And when this 1968 was built, Mercury was in its 30th year of existence. And you got to remember that Mercury was strictly V8s until you get into 1960 when the Comet arrived with an optional six-banger. But the vast majority of Mercuries at this point in time were V8 powered. And with a big car like this, you needed V8 power under the hood. And that's what this one had. Now keep in mind that Mercury lineup in 1968 consisted of the Monterey, the Montclair, the Park Lane, and then the Marquis at the top. Now the Marquis was strictly two-door, but 1968 was the final year for the Park Lane we see here. 69, the Marquis lineup took up all of the special cars, including four-doors, wagons, etc. So Park Lane seen for the final time right here in 68. Now the Park Lane nameplate arrived in 58 and again ran for 10 years through 68. Beautiful car, if you like this sort of styling, similar really in many ways to the Cougar, with a sort of a blade effect down the side. And if you see these and a Cougar next to each other, you'll know that they're definitely from the same studio. Quad headlights arranged horizontally, the prow in the middle, again a metal grille, no plastic here, all this die-cast metal. And onto the hood, this one would have, okay, it's gone now, but standard engine in the Park Lane was the high compression 390 4-barrel, the Z-code engine. There were no 2-barrels available. There were strictly 4-barrel high compression motors in these Park Lanes. Again, this is the top level car under the Marquis, but again, these were available as 4-doors, 2-doors, fastbacks, wagons, even convertibles, the Park Lane. So these were kind of the most spiffy of the Mercury lineup. This one once had power brakes. Here's the booster with the gold anodized or iridite finish still on it, and Midland, the subcontractor that supplied this booster unit, the vacuum booster, to help the brake pedal go a little bit easier and still exert plenty of hydraulic pressure into the lines. The front sway bar, look at this. This is silly. It's so, look how skinny that thing is. That's the front anti-roll bar. These things are usually twice that diameter, but there it is. But keep in mind that Mercury was about a boulevard ride, a plush ride, and so as a result, a skinny front sway bar, all the better to help it be plush. Brakes are gone on this one, but in 68, disc brakes were certainly possible up front. We can see the remains of the upper and lower control arms here. There's the ball joints, still pliable. And again, the spherical joint right there, patented, I believe, by Ford, the term ball joint that is. And so GM, when they started using these in 55, called it a spherical joint. But we all knew the difference. But here's the bottoms and the tops. Here's the coil spring. And here's the end of that dinky little anti-roll bar right there, which is, I mean, is about as thick as a pencil. That's kind of crazy stuff right there. But anyway, this one, again, being a Park Lane, has the graphic right here. Park Lane, it says. Hello, doggy. That would be Katie, the junkyard assistant, Queen Katie of Bernardston, but Park Lane right there. The blackout down here was standard equipment on Park Lane to give it a lower, longer look without changing anything about the ride height. That's what black paint will do. It'll kind of make things look a little lower, flat black. Kind of cool. Inside, power windows, automatic transmissions. There was a 4-speed possible in certain full-size Mercuries, but not here. This, of course, has the automatic on the column. And look at the brake pedal right there. You'll see, indeed, that is a disc brake logo, and this would have been a factory disc brake car. Disc brakes arriving on full-sized Ford and Mercury in 1967. And this one pretty plush inside. Nice carpeting, deep pile cut carpeting as they say. And a bench seat up front with a split, so you could have his or her seat movement if you chose. And here's Motor Trend magazine right here. Let's take a peek and see what they had to say. This is November 1967, and we all know that Motor Trend never makes mistakes with one exception: canceling Roadkill's Junkyard Gold. Canceled? What do you mean we're canceled? Just say it. Anyway, inside here we have a little bit of information right here on the new Mercuries for 1968. It says here, of significance, seat belts for all designed seating position standard. Shoulder belts for front outboard passengers optional. Standard engine is a 392 barrel, regular fuel for all but the Park Lane and Brougham. These use a 4-barrel premium fuel version of that 390. But again, here's the fastback style, which is certainly possible on certain Mercuries. But this one here, the formal roof 4-door sedan. And again, when we say sedan, we have to remember we're talking about full door frames, a fixed B-pillar. And the beauty of this really is that even though you sacrifice some open air feel when you're driving with the windows all down on a nice day, when it's raining or cold, the weather stripping is way more effective with full door frames than it would be with the rubber lips around the windows. So these were less drafty, warmer, and drier. Not as sexy, but again, the sedan body style was certainly the preferred one if you wanted a car that was air dry and tight inside. Now, the trim tag on this, the VIN tag right there, let's do a little decode. And we can see that this one, the Z code in the 5th spot, 390 high compression. B, Oakville, Canada. That's where this was built, a Canadian-built car. Of course, U for the C6 automatic, and 17 is the Washington, D.C. Dealer Sales Organization, so delivered new to Washington, D.C. And the rear axle code, there's a 1 in this spot, which tells us that the rear axle on this would be a 275-to-1 open differential. And a little junkyard pro tip, on Fords like this, when you see a number, it's an open differential. You see a letter, that's a clutch type or a posi type rear axle with limited slip. So again, if you see a letter, regardless of the ratio, it's worth grabbing. If you see a number, it's just an open diff, and who cares anyway. But anyway, the back seat on this, plenty big. I'm going to say it again, it's commodious. And again, this is simulated leather, a little bit of brocade fabric, whatever you want to call it. Pretty plush stuff. Power windows in the back, little grab rails here, little these doohickeys right here, which are ready to give you tetanus, but back when they were new would have had a little bit of a vinyl covering. And this was a safety feature new for 68, these squeeze handles right here, which did away with the external things that might have cut you up if you were flying around in your car without your seatbelts on. Speaking of seatbelts, let's look at this right here. This one was ordered with the optional shoulder belt right here. And notice the little Velcro patch right here. These things clip on and stay up top. And I don't think someone's ever been used. It doesn't look that way. But again, this is the optional shoulder harness that kept you from kissing the dashboard if you made a sudden stop. This one still is the rear axle. The 9-inch is in place, but again, with the 275-to-1 open 9-inch center section, who really cares? And this does look to have the 28 spline, not the 31 spline axle shaft, so it's probably best left right here. The trunk on this thing, massive, and again, the antenna here at the rear, whereas on a Ford Galaxy, it would be up on the front fender, something that gave the Mercury a little different cachet, a little different vibe. And yeah, the trunk on these things is huge. And here's the original burgundy paint under the deck lid and the correct sort of gray Zolatone finish on the trunk floor. And something amazing, from 65 onward, when Mercury and Ford went to perimeter frames with a box section, they went to this really huge shelf right here. The spare tire would live up there, but it gave you a massive area down here to put all kinds of luggage. You could stack about 1.5 cords of firewood in here if you really wanted to. But with that said, this massive wall right here. Now the gas tank was actually located underneath that wall. Now on smaller Fords like the Fairlane and the Mustang and the Mercury Comet and of course the Cougar, the gas tank was under the luggage compartment, but the top of the gas tank formed the floor of the trunk, which seems kind of crazy because if you don't have a trunk mat on there and you say you carry a battery to the parts store and it flips over, positive, negative, get on that trunk, top of the gas tank, and you're doing some welding and you have a fireball. But not on the full-size cars because, again, the trunk floor and the gas tank were divided on these things. Now, something that made the Park Lane, different from a Ford Galaxy, which is basically what it's based on, is how they played a trick with the roof. The B-pillar right here, you'll notice the glass is recessed a good 2 inches all the way around. On a Ford Galaxy, the same basic roof stamping, that glass is flush mounted. So what Mercury did was they basically created a filler panel that recessed the window inboard, this 2 inches, to make it look different and give it a more, luxurious look with sort of the hide-and-seek wraparound. But something lost in 1968 was the optional breezeway rear window, which was available in 66 and 67. And that would be, this window here would slide down about 3 inches, and that was a hangover from the breezeway window of the 1950s, early 60s, wherein there was a reverse angle and the whole window would go down in the middle. That was a Mercury breezeway effect. Hello, Katie. And so basically this one here, 68, no more breezeway. But again, the sunken glass was an attempt on Mercury stylists' effort to make this look different from a Galaxy. It's the same basic bones, but an otherwise different car, thanks to little details like that. So that's the story of the final year, Mercury Park Lane. This one's a Broughamance with the vinyl top here at Bernardston Auto Wrecking. It's high compression 390, long gone, and so is the C6 automatic. So it'll probably stay right about right here. But if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Magazine YouTube channel. Be sure to ring the bell, tell your friends, share it, like it, all that good stuff. And of course, when you ring that bell, you'll get an alert as to when the next video happens, which is tomorrow morning. See you then.